Even though you've watched my first 2 guides, you still feel like you need to improve? Alright, I got you. In this guide, we'll finish this series and go over the 10 last tips you need to get your looping to the highest level. So let's get right into it. First, let's talk about what separates a great looper from a pro. Pros use every single advantage they can get. They think 2 steps ahead and make the most use out of the time and resources they have. They don't think about the next 10 or 20 seconds, they think about what comes after that and how to put the killer in bad situations. Every tip in this video is built around that, and once you understand and apply certain tips that you probably never would have thought about on your own, you will be able to put the killer in big disadvantages. Also, the first 3 tips are actually tips that I think fit in between the advanced guide and this one, so the good stuff comes after tip 3. Alright, so now that we've covered that, let's get into the first tip. Tip number 1, faking. We're not talking about faking in general, because that's something you probably do anyway, and we covered that in the last video already. I'm talking about one specific fake. After you drop the pellet and stun the killer. If you think that the killer will destroy the pellet, but they end up leaving it there, you're basically giving the killer free distance to catch up. Instead, you should run out of the killer's line of sight and watch them until you see them either breaking the pellet or running after you. Because if they run after you, you should play around the pellet until they commit to breaking it. Unless there's something really close nearby, then you can start running as soon as you stun the killer, but most of the time it's a lot safer to wait until the killer made the decision. Tip number 2, spacing. Some, or maybe even most of you, are probably already doing this, but I just want to quickly cover it since it makes the game a lot easier for your teammates. Whenever the killer destroys a pellet you dropped, you use that moment to run away. But how far are you running? To the next pellet, the next strong tile, or until the killer catches up? My advice would be, if you run to the next pellet and you still have plenty of distance, keep running to the next pellet or strong tile. You should try to avoid unsafe pellets anyway, and let's look at it like this. You have 6 pellets near you right now and you always skip 1 during the chase. That means you used 3 and left 3. This is incredibly good for your teammates because they now have 3 pellets they can use, otherwise this side would probably be a dead zone by now. Not only for your teammates though, let's say you've used the 3 pellets and realized that you've been running into a dead zone. Usually, you'd be forced to take the hit here, but because you left 3 pellets, you can turn around and use the 3 pellets to get to the other side. Honestly, you're probably not going to find 6 pellets in a row without a single strong tile, but it's still something you should think about to maximize your pellet usage. So always try to skip a pellet if you have enough distance and try to get to a strong tile as soon as possible. Tip 3. Line of sight. We've covered check spots already, but there's something I want to add to that. You and the killer don't have the same information. You can see the killer, but sometimes the killer can't see you, and that is one of the biggest advantages you have in the chase. So be patient and make the most of it, because the killer has to guess whether you're going to vault, fake it, or run away, all while you see them clearly. Also, make sure you pre-aim your camera around corners. That way you can gather information a bit faster. Okay, so I'd say everything from here on is really high level. So make sure you practice all of these because you will probably not learn them overnight. Tip number 4. Taking good hits. This one must sound really confusing. We've spent 3 videos telling you to not get hit, and now I'm telling you to take hits on purpose? Yeah, but only in specific situations. A good hit is one where you trade your health state for something more valuable. The most common example is reaching a strong tile. If you're surrounded by horrible pellets and you're sure you'll get hit, it's sometimes better to just tank the hit and reach a strong tile. And for the second scenario, let's assume you're in a dead zone. So a part of the map that is basically dead since all resources have been used already. If you're in a dead zone and have no options, just tank the hit and run across the map or to the next tile where you know that there's the resources there. Because otherwise you will lose a ton of distance and the killer might be able to catch up before you even reach the next tile. Oh, and also, whenever you get hit, don't vault or drop from any kind of height. I see a lot of survivors doing this and I should have covered that a lot sooner and not just in the pro guide. But you get a lot of haste by getting hit, and if you vault or drop after that, you lose the momentum you just got, which obviously results in a huge loss of distance. So to round this up, always ask yourself what you're getting in return when you get hit now. If you get a lot of distance or a strong tile that makes the chase last longer, go for it. Tip number 5. Shift tech. This is probably the most mechanical tip in this entire series, but once you master it, it's one of the best tools you have. So I'll explain how it works. A chase sequence only starts when the killer sees you sprinting, but if you're walking, the chase doesn't start, which means bloodlust doesn't build up and the window never gets blocked no matter how often you vault. I know this just sounds like straight up cheating now, but trust me, it is hard to do in a chase and you'll most likely only ever get 1 to 2 more vaults out of it. So shift tech basically requires you to walk at the right moments to reset bloodlust or even prevent the chase sequence. I'll show you an example of me vaulting 11 times against the nemesis in the background. And nope, this wasn't a custom game or anything, I just vaulted the shack window 11 times in a public match. Every time you press the vault button, you get locked into an animation. But for some reason, if you let go of shift while being in this animation, it counts as if you're walking. If you then walk past to a side and the killer decides to vault after you, you get enough time to sprint toward the entrance again. Everything while you're outside of the killer's line of sight. But once the killer turns around the corner, you walk slowly into the shack again and immediately start sprinting once you're out of the killer's line of sight again. All of this happens while no chase sequence started, which means you can vault forever until the killer decides to double back or leave you alone. It's hard to pull off consistently and requires a lot of practice, especially because you're supposed to do this everywhere, not just at the shack. So take your time while practicing it. Even I struggle to pull it off consistently, especially when the killer takes perks that give them haste or just use their ability to cut off my path. Hi, don't worry, we'll continue soon. I just found out that YouTube has a hype feature and apparently everyone gets 3 free hypes per week which reset on Monday. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, I'd really appreciate if you could press that little hype button so that this video gets pushed into the top 100. As of right now, I think it only works on mobile sadly. Okay, let's continue the video. Tip number 6. Zoning. Zoning is when you position yourself in a way that forces the killer into a losing situation. Let's say you're on the edge of the map and are looping around a pallet. If you drop the pallet with your back towards the edge of the map now, you're in a horrible spot. I mean, where do you want to go after? Run into the wall? If you're lucky, you have a pallet nearby, but you won't always be lucky. Instead, you want to get into a position where you have the whole map behind you and the killer is on the edge of the map. That's why it's called zoning. You zone the killer away from the map so that it takes him ages to catch up and gives you enough time to run toward a strong tile. But that's not everything, because zoning goes both ways. Now, obviously most killers you face won't even think about things like that, because as I said earlier, this is really advanced stuff. But if you encounter a killer that knows about zoning as well, they'll try to do the exact same thing on you. They'll try to push you toward the edge of the map and take away your options. And because of that, I'll show you how to zone properly. The way you approach a pallet and how you loop around it has a huge impact on it. If you run through the pallet up front and just run in a circle, you will always end up in the same position as before. But if you turn around, you get the better side. Now, obviously you're running away from the killer, so you cannot just turn around. And the killer will try to zone you toward the bad side anyway. So instead of trying to get to the better side by turning around, run a circle around the whole pallet, just like before, but instead of running through it again, run around the other structure on the side as well. This will naturally put you into the position you want. The killer will often turn around and mind game you, because they don't want to end up on the bad side either. And from here on, honestly, good luck. That's going to be a fun match of cat and mouse. Tip number 7. Micro movements. Micro movements are tiny inputs that make you unpredictable without losing momentum. Whoa, sounds like I'm just throwing around words at this point. But no, and it sounds worse than it actually is. So let me quickly explain it for you. I've actually briefly talked about it before in another guide. If you're in a pallet and step back for a really brief moment, the killer expects you to drop the pallet, which results in either a swing or, most likely, a step back to not get stunned. That gives you enough time to make another loop around it. It's similar in the second scenario, but this time line of sight also plays a good role in it. I want you to take a quick look at this here. Out of the killer's perspective, it looks like I just went right through the pallet and I'll come out on the other side. Some experienced killers will use that moment to switch the side and try to cut me off. But instead of actually running through it, I fake it and make a run for it. This will most likely confuse the killer and you'll get a ton of time to make distance. Tip number 8. Pathing. Good pathing just means that you take the ideal path toward your goal. So I just wanted to quickly cover that you shouldn't do these weird wiggles, because otherwise you will lose a ton of distance. It is alright to adjust your character a little, everybody does that, but you don't want to constantly wiggle. The reason I've decided to place this tip so high up is another though. In the beginner guide we covered that you should always switch between looking at the killer and what's in front of you. But naturally, you won't move your mouse in the perfect angle every time, so you might move your mouse too much or too little sometimes. And reducing this takes a lot of time and practice. This will happen naturally though, so you don't need to stress about it. The more you play, the more natural this becomes. I just wanted to talk about it so that you're aware of it and are actively trying to improve this. Tip number 9. Heartbeat reading. Now this tip is insane. I mean, by now you should already know that every killer, except stealth killers like Michael Myers or Ghostface for example, has a terror radius. That's the music you hear when the killer is near you. And then we obviously have the heartbeat that gets louder the closer the killer gets. But what if I tell you that you can tell where the killer is going even though you can't see them, mid-chase? Look at this clip for example. I can tell where the killer is even though they are behind a wall. Even though the heartbeat is incredibly loud, and it sounds as if it couldn't get any louder, you can hear a significant difference when the killer gets closer. That's basically wall hacking. As a feature, in-game. Obviously it's not easy to do, and it gets even harder when the chase sequence already started. Because once you're in a chase, another soundtrack plays that's much louder and more intense. It's actually one of the hardest techniques to pull off in-game, and it takes a ton of practice. But I'm telling you man, If you manage to pull it off, the killer literally can't do anything because you know where they are through a wall. Tip number 10. 360s or FOV-Tech, as a last resort. I can tell you directly up front that no good killer gets 360'd. Only controller or newer players will get 360'd sometimes, and the only time a good killer can be fooled is when they expect it the least or aren't paying attention. I still want to cover it because sometimes you're in a dead zone or you're unable to reach the next pallet. And since you're supposed to be a pro after this video, you need to know about it anyway, because pros use every single tool or technique available to them. A 360 is when you spin your character in a full circle to make the killer miss their swing. This works because killers usually lunge at you, so if you spin unpredictably enough, the killer sometimes misses. The FOV-Tech is similar. I usually don't use it too often though, but as you already know, killers are playing in first person while you are playing in third person. So if you cut around the corner and do a little swing right into the killer when they are coming around the corner as well, it looks as if you turned around and ran straight past them, which makes them swing behind them sometimes. So you're basically using the killer's own FOV, or field of view, against them. As I've already said, you should only use these two as a last resort. You don't attempt a 360 or an FOV-Tech when you have enough distance or are able to use a resource. You should only use them when it's more or less inevitable that you're going to get hit, because a 10% chance to dodge a hit is better than 0%. Alright, that's it. A total of 30 tips to help you improve at looping. I honestly can't think of anything else, so if you guys still have something I should have covered, please put it into the comment section. If we get up to 10 tips that are still worth mentioning, I might make another video about it. But aside from that, this series is actually finished. Before we sum everything up like always, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could like it or even subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out so that I can produce more content like this video here. And now let's sum everything up. Tip number 1, faking. After you stun the killer, wait and see what they do before you decide what you're going to do. Tip number 2, spacing. Skip pellets when you have enough distance to keep them for later. Tip number 3, line of sight. You can see the killer, but they can't always see you. Use that advantage. Tip number 4, take good hits. Always ask yourself what you're getting in return for a hit. Tip number 5, shift tech. Walk at the right moments to prevent the chase from starting. Tip number 6, zoning. Position yourself so the killer is always on the wrong side of the map. Tip number 7, micro movements. Small, unpredictable inputs that bait swings and abilities without losing momentum. Tip number 8, pathing. Run straight, avoid weird wiggles, and be aware of your mouse movement. Tip number 10, heartbeat reading. Listen through the walls to know exactly where the killer is. Tip number 10, 360s and FOV-Tech. Only use them as a last resort, a 10% chance is better than 0%. Alright, perfect. Thank you for sticking through this series with me. I plan on doing the video for the specific tiles next, but before that, you guys will obviously get another build video on Thursday. So I'll see you guys in the next video.